Welcome to another episode of Pregaming Pigskin. After a few-week hiatus, we are back, and I am Gene, aka Wire to Wire Gene Walzak. How y'all feeling tonight, gentlemen?
I'm doing all right.
And in the upper left corner, upper right corner, depending how you're watching on your screen, we have the Prince of Production, Kyle the Machine Edwards.
What's up? Ready for great show talking some NFL with, Gene and Godfrey. I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing right now.
That was so anticlimactic. I need some energy, Kyle. God damn it.
I'm hyped. All right, I'm hyped. Let's go.
And back with me is my brother from another mother, my road dog, the THEEGODFREY, the Godfrey. What's popping?
I'm hyped. I'm going to get some anger out tonight. So
anger?
Maybe there's some subject I'm going to light someone's asses up. None of the hosts, but maybe who we're talking about light their ass up.
Light it up. I'm ready. I want the smoke. I want all the smoke. I'm about to go see Scream tonight. Maybe Jordan will get in the chat and you could light him up.
Scream. Yeah, that's cool. I wonder if he's hanging out in Cooperstown, Louisville.
Yo, shots fired early in the show. Well,
you fell off your seat when that happened.
Bro, you said
literally
that perfectly. I knew exactly what you were doing. Are city and state required? I heard you. Like he said Cooperstown. You're like, do we need the city and state, please? I knew exactly what you were doing, bro. It was hilarious.
I thought when I said that, I thought that I was teeing it up for him easy, like I was giving him a hint. And when he said Louisville, I was like, wow, he went for a city, not even a state. I was like, shit. That was a little bit of like a Jedi mind trick there. You know what I mean? So
it was funny.
You literally fell out of your seat.
I did. I couldn't. Like Louisville Slugger. I'm like, oh my God, bro. I can't. But we got a crazy episode of pre-gaming the draft, pre-gaming free agency, pre-gaming the combine, which has kind of already happened. But that's okay. So I want to start with the combine because I've gotten really heated conversations with this recently. And I know Kyle's thoughts, but I kind of want to get yours, Godfrey. And then Kyle, for all the listeners that are listening out there that have not heard the Big Three on Tuesday, I kind of want to hear your opinion repeated again. Mm-hmm. Bryce Young, should he have thrown at the combine? Godfrey, I'm asking you first.
Well, I'm not a huge combine fan. I'm not against it, but I would say I think yes, because, I want to see someone that, I feel like they're putting it all out there. They have the confidence to do it. And I don't know what his reasons are. So I'm just talking from, the chest here. But I think it would be a good idea for him to do it. Will it hurt his draft stock? I'm not sure because there's certain guys that haven't and it didn't. But, there's questions of size and, can he do it on a pro level and, his height. And I don't know if he's avoiding that. Football is kind of like pro wrestling where, like, they're like, he's 6'1", but then you do the measure, like, oh, he's really 6, just 6 foot. You know what I mean? So I don't know if he's avoiding something or he just felt like he didn't want to hurt himself or he just was putting himself out there in a situation that wasn't advantageous to his success. But I think he should have did it personally.
Godfrey obviously hasn't listened to the Big Three or Wire to Wire last night. Because,
nope.
And I tell you right now, I'm ready. But Kyle, would you like to respond, do the honors? I don't know, man. Do you agree, disagree? What do you think?
I mean, like I said, I know where you will be heading with it. For me, I would say I kind of lead towards Godfrey, but I do understand the other side of it where a lot of times teams overreact to measurables at the combine. I mean, you heard it this year. Everybody's talking about Will Levis with a rocket. They're making Anthony Richardson out to be like the next big thing because of his measurables. And we know Bryce Young, everybody.
That boy's fast, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Anthony.
So now Richardson's being seen as possible QB1 off the draft there, whereas Bryce Young, he did it at Alabama against what everybody says best conference in college football. So you can go back and look at his tape and understand who he is. He'll have his pro day, which he'll do everything that was at the combine, just in a controlled situation where he's throwing to guys he knows and all that. I mean, I know I posed the question on cheap seats as well, and I said if I was a top prospect, I would go just because I don't know. I guess I would just throw and do all that there just to see, just to kind of let teams know, like, hey, I'm the best quarterback. I'm gonna show you. I may not have the rocket of the arm, but I'm most accurate. I might not be the fastest, but you guys know if it comes down to it, I can scramble and make my way. So if you're going to use the combine to knock me down, that's on you. And then I'll just use that as motivation. But I would have thrown, but I understand why Bryce Young didn't.
After you say that,
like I said,
I'm kind of neutral on it. I kind of feel like I could understand why he would want to go now. It's leaning more toward it because, this is the era. Like, this is different than football was 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
I'm so fired up right now.
They like to invent things to manipulate the market as far as the drafts the GMs do. Like, look at Anthony Richardson. Like, no one's taking him at 1. I don't believe that for a second. That's crazy. No one's taking him at 1. Now, does he deserve to fly up the draft board because of skill? Sure. But people are always trying to manipulate the market. So I could see Bryce Young not wanting his market manipulated, And I'm neutral on this because I could see why he can make a case for not doing it. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, for me, the cautionary tale is always Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was a guy who most people didn't care about. He had one game at BYU. An announcer or something said, he reminds me of Patrick Mahomes. All of a sudden, Zach Wilson became the hottest name coming out that year, and look what has happened to him. He looks like the guy that most people thought. Yeah, he looks like the guy most people thought. Not mature, can't necessarily make all the good throws. Sure, he has a good arm, but what does that get you if you're not accurate or smart decision-making wise? Now, how do we know Anthony Richardson's not the same way? But if a team reaches for him, they'll be looking at it in a couple of years like, oh, he needs a couple of more years to figure it out. And it's like, well, you should have figured it out before you drafted him. So for Bryce Young, so I'm like, for Bryce Young, I'm like Godfrey as well. If he doesn't throw, fine, because he'll throw at his pro day. So it's the same thing as the combine, just he didn't do it in Indianapolis. I mean, I don't care either way.
But that's the part that pisses me off. Kyle, I have 4 strong points, but I'm gonna offer you guys door number 1 or door number 2. Which one would you like to open first?
Let's go with door number 2.
Door number 2? Okay. Door number 2 was Florida's Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson, who I just want to read the stat out to you. Played against Kentucky, who is, middle of the pack SEC team. I think they finished 7-6 or 8-5 around that area. And Will Levis versus Kentucky, an SEC team, week 2. He was 14 of 35 for 143 yards and 2 interceptions. Okay. Listen, I get it, man. That might not be the end all be all for Anthony Richardson. So let's just take it a step further. Further down the line, Anthony Richardson played against Mizzou in Florida, homecoming game. Anthony Richardson was 8 for 14 for 66 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. You know what, though? He runs the ball really well, right? He's really fast. 5 carries, 45 yards. Okay. Would you like more tape? I don't even want to pull up Georgia. I got more for you. I got more. We go further down the line. He played Vanderbilt, the worst team in the SEC for years.
Yeah.
He had a great game. 25 of 42 for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns and 1 pick, and lost. to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Door number 2 or door number 1, Will Levis. Now, I want to read something out to you because I think it's important. 2022. Florida gave up 26 points to Utah, 26 to Kentucky, 28 to South Florida, 38 to Tennessee, 17 to Eastern Washington, 17 to Mizzou, 45 to LSU, 42 to Georgia, 24 to A&M, whose offense was pedestrian, 6 to South Carolina, 31 to Vanderbilt, and 45 to Florida State, and 30 to Oregon State. Would you say that's good defense? Would you say that's a good defense? The answer is no. I can answer it for you if you like. Will Levis, 13 of 24 for 202 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception versus Florida. Guys, I don't like. Just go down Kentucky's schedule. He scored 6 points against Georgia. That's an NFL team. He lost to Vanderbilt, 24-21. They lost to Tennessee, 44-6. Do you want me to read a stat line from that game? Tennessee's defense stunk. Will Levis, 16 of 27 for 98 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Are you out of your friggin' mind? You're going to draft Will Levis and Anthony Richardson over Bryce Young? Hey, listen, listen, Godfrey, you know what I'm talking about here. Kyle looks like he's a decent-looking human being. I'm not the greatest-looking guy. I got a little extra weight to me. Godfrey, you're a good-looking guy, but you're not the greatest. You're not winning any awards. How do you pick up women, Godfrey?
Money? No. I mean, no. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Pick up women? You hook up with girls. How do you pick up women?
You know, just throw the personality out there and see who connects with
spit game. Yeah. How many women you picking up in a club when the music's really loud and you got all the Jersey Shore guys pumping their arms? Is that your space? Godfrey?
I whisper in her ear. Have you ever heard of Pregaming Pigskin?
That's not your space, correct?
No. I mean, I've been in that space. I have a lot of friends.
You're not out looking these guys on the beach, right? With your shirt off, and you're not winning that round. The rounds that you win, the rounds I win.
Beard. It's the beard. I just kind of go like this. I'm like, hey, you like beards?
Godfrey, the rounds that you win or the rounds that I win is game.
Right.
We have game.
Yeah, I mean,
game. Hold on, let me finish. I'm almost done, I promise. We have game. Why is Bryce Young going to stand on the beach next to C.J. Stroud and Will Levis while they throw a cannon of an arm around with no defense, with no shirt on? Why is he doing it? He played in the SEC and never had games as bad as Anthony Richardson and as bad as Will Levis. He played in the SEC. He won a Heisman Trophy. Why do I have to subject myself to watch him throw next to Will Levis? So I'm like, Will Levis's arm is better. Of course Will Levis's arm is better. Can I ask you a question? Who has better arm talent, Jay Cutler or Tom Brady?
Cutler.
It's not close.
Yeah, but that's not everything, too. I mean,
correct. It's not everything. And that's the point. Why in the world would Bryce Young throw at the combine next to Will Levis and C.J. Stroud when those guys have better arms than he does?
You want to win the Jeff George Award, where you have a really, really great arm. I mean, that's what I call it. I mean, listen, last year, it doesn't surprise me. Let me take you in a Wayback Machine real quick when it comes to quarterbacks and draft. I want to go to the 2021 draft, all right? Easy.
I want to answer David's question too, by the way. David, we will answer your question, FYI. Go ahead, Godfrey. I'm sorry.
Trevor Lawrence went number 1. All right, everybody's okay with that. Then we got Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. Okay. Then you got Justin Fields and Mac Jones. Now, to me, why would anybody I would have never taken Zach Wilson or Trey Lance over Justin Fields. Not in a million years. And I wouldn't, Mac Jones, okay. People were talking about in that draft the Niners taking Mac Jones at 3 when they traded up, which was crazy to me. And I'm like, what? Justin Fields was the number 2 quarterback, clear number 2 quarterback draft. You could say 1A, 1B. It was always Lawrence and Fields for me. And the way it's played out, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And every year we have some GM trying to reinvent the wheel. Anthony Richardson shouldn't come nowhere near the top 3 quarterbacks. Will Levis should go nowhere near.
Day 3 guy.
Yeah. Well, he should come nowhere near Stroud or Bryce Young. It's nuts to me. And to me, it doesn't matter where they draft him because that's going to be how the quarterbacks play out, I believe. Will Levis, it's fair to ask who has he played against. And definitely Anthony Richardson has done awful in college. I see the tangibles are there, but you're going to have to let the kid sit for a year and a half. There's no way he comes in right away and he's going to be able to read NFL defenses better than he did in college because he couldn't read a defense in college. And I know that from watching minimal tape on the kid because I'm like, all right, let's check this kid out. And the GMs these days, especially in the last 10 years, like to invent quarterbacks because it's like you have nothing if you don't have a quarterback. And I'm not buying the Will Levis talk or the Anthony Richardson talk. The top 2 guys for me are Stroud and Young. Now, I personally prefer Stroud a little bit more over Young, personally.
Because he's bigger?
I just kind of like the game overall. It's because he's a little bigger. I worry. Yeah, but I worry about the durability. That's the only thing I'm worrying about. But again, fair. If I'm the team that's behind him and they say they take Stroud and Young is there's no question I'm taking Young. I'm not looking at the other guys. So they're 1 and 2 for me all day long as far as quarterbacks. And if someone took Bryce Young at 1, I wouldn't say that's a bad pick. I'd be like, okay, you got your guy.
It's just embarrassing, Godfrey. It's embarrassing to me that this happens all the time where Bryce Young is literally looked at in this different light and Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. Look at these prospects. They could be this, and that. It's just laughable. Watch them play.
Yeah, and they're going to have to be coached. I mean, I think a lot of teams, too, are trying to.
What is Mickey Delaney talking? Why? Turn your TV off. You don't have to watch. What are you talking about?
Clarify,
I understand what you're talking about.
Clarify. But I think, listen, we see teams this year are going to try to pull off what the Eagles did. And most Eagles fans are like, what were you doing when he drafted him, including myself? But Jalen Hurts played well at the college level. It's not an equal, Anthony Richardson didn't play well at the college level. Jalen Hurts balled out the college level. His last year was at Oklahoma. And I think people were like, well, let's get someone that's a prospect and let's make him into a quarterback, right? And that's feasible sometimes, but I still think they're inventing prospects. Malik Willis last year, they talked about him going in the first round. And listen, it was fair to ask, who did he play? He played nobody. And it was so bad. They were like, we got to pull a guy off the street at the end of the season when Tanner was injured. I forget, who was the kid they pulled off? That was Hodges?
Josh Dobbs, I thought it was.
Josh Dobbs. He was. I mean, if you're saying you have potential and you can't outplay Josh Dobbs, you're done. You're done.
Speaking about not outplaying bad quarterbacks, Godfrey, I know you're not a huge Penn State guy, but do you know who Sean Clifford is?
Yeah, he beat out Will Levis.
Yes.
Yeah.
He beat Will Levis out for the job at Penn State. That's why Will Levis was in Kentucky.
I know Sean Clifford didn't impress me.
Sean Clifford beat out Will Levis for the Penn State job. Yeah, we're going to take Will Levis in the first round. You guys are out of your mind. Out of your mind.
I think I could see taking him if he's the third quarterback left on the board and you want to take a shot, but not over those 2 guys. No way. Stroud and Young are the top 2. I just don't see.
Why are we writing Hendon Hooker off? Because he tore his ACL? Hendon Hooker looked better than both of them.
I've thrown that name out there as well. I think
Hendon Hooker looked better than both of them.
That would be a sneaky pickup by a team. And you know what the funny thing is? I really think with how much money quarterbacks are to command, I really think
in that same game, Godfrey, that same game where Will Levis threw 16 to 27, 90 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 picks. His counterpart, Hendon Hooker, was 19 of 25 for 245 yards and 3 touchdowns, 2 of them being to Jalen Hyatt, who will be one of the top wide receivers off the board. It's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it is. It is embarrassing. I mean, listen, and we've seen a lot of busts before back in the day, like, Jamarcus Russell, that was there, like, look at his arm. But the thing you have to ask, and I do think you could get a quarterback from a small school and they could be successful if you put them in the right situation. But, the pro game is so much faster than the collegiate game. So if they're playing in a subpar program, how are they performing? Is it them or is it the program? But when you look at Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, they're playing good competition. They're in national championship games, and you're seeing them on a national stage. I just think it's wild. I mean, I think people will try to manipulate the market too, definitely by like throwing talk in there. It's like watching CNBC and watching people talk about stocks. Like, oh, you shouldn't buy that. Yeah, this stock's really good and pump it up and down. I think people do that too with the NFL draft. They try to pump up a guy, and hopefully a team takes him and bites it, and then another guy falls in your lap that shouldn't. Anthony Richardson is a first-round draft shake-up pick. Someone's going to take the bait, and someone is now going to fall to a team that they shouldn't because they took him in the first round. I would not take that kid in the first round. Third earliest fourth-round pick.
Charles, listen real quick, and we'll kind of move off the combine in a minute. But Charles McDonald, and this is kind of to touch on David Burns. Now that y'all are on the draft, what are your predictions on the draft? Charles McDonald, who writes for Yahoo Sports, just an hour ago, put out his mock draft 5.0. Number 1, the Indianapolis Colts trade up to the Bears, and they take CJ Stroud. Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Houston Texans should get their guy at number 2. Nope. Anthony Richardson, Houston Texans, number 2 overall.
That's fucking crazy.
It's already begun, yeah.
Arizona Cardinals take Will Anderson Jr. Chicago Bears at 4 take Jalen Carter. Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech, goes 5. Bryce Young falls all the way to 6 in a trade with the Detroit Lions, move up to get Bryce Young. The Las Vegas Raiders, the next pick, select Will Levis. And Nolan Smith, who had the most ridiculous 40 for that's the last time an edge rusher ran a 4.3 was Micah Parsons. Nolan Smith ran a 4.3. Kid played for Georgia. Out of this world. He's going 9 to the Panthers. That would be a steal.
Yeah.
And the Eagles get Oregon cornerback Christian Gonzalez. I just my projection, I think the NFL isn't as stupid as people think they are. I think that these teams can't be this dumb. I think Indy does trade up to 1. They get CJ Stroud. I think Houston sits pat at 2. They get Bryce Young. And I think the quarterback's Levis. I think Levis will end up going top 15. And I think Richardson falls and he slides. I just can't see. I can't see a team being this absurd.
No.
I can't see it. I can't see this team being absurd.
Do you see something like a Lamar situation where a team sees him slip in and goes, hey, we'll trade back into the bottom of the first to take, since he is such a darling now because of the combine. I could definitely see that happening. Yeah, I don't see him. If the Colts were to trade up to 1 to take him, it kind of fit what they've been doing the past few years, where it just seems like they don't know what they're doing. And I feel like that would be a mistake. But if a team jumped back into the first round, I wouldn't be mad at it, because they might be wondering if they could wait till their next pick to take him. So,
Jordan, he's not. He's not a first-round quarterback. He might get drafted in the first round because he had a ridiculous combine. Right. All I ask you to do is watch the kid play. Just watch him play.
Anybody ever see that TikTok where it's the young black kid in the Burger King shirt and he goes, 1 kiss is all it takes, and he throws the headphones down and gets mad? That's going to be the Texas draft pick. That's what's going to happen, because if I am the Lions, and I've been saying that if the Lions can snag a QB like that at 6, they got to do it. Jared Goff's not your long-term answer. People are arguing with me. I don't care what you say. And if you're a team,
oh my God,
and you don't need a quarterback and that guy falls in, you better pick him.
If you can get Bryce Young at 6, the Lions would be dancing out of their chair. They already have Jamison Williams, who is his number 1 wide receiver for his Heisman Trophy campaign. They would be jumping out of their chair.
So would I, because I have Jamison Williams in a dynasty league. I would be love that. But I mean, because that would be something that would upset the draft. And if that happened, and you're a team, even if I didn't have a quarterback, I would pick that kid because
Would you agree? And we got to get off the draft. I'm sorry, guys, I went a little bit too long. But would you agree that the 2021 Georgia defense was one of the greatest defenses you ever watched play in college football ever?
It was pretty good.
Go check tape and watch what Bryce Young did to them in the SEC title game. Go check tape and watch what Bryce Young did to them in the SEC title game with Jamison Williams.
Yeah.
He was that defense heralded 6 first rounders.
Yeah.
Well, 6 after Jalen Carter gets picked this year.
Yeah, and the size thing about Bryce Young is a little overplayed too because he's a young man still. He can add some bulk, and that could kind of go away. The height thing might be a little concern, but
doesn't count Quay Walker either, or Keely Ringo. Keely Ringo should get drafted in the first round too. It could be 7 first rounders that started on that defense.
Yeah, Ringo's.
Nice. Nakobe Deaner, Keely Ringo, and Keely Ringo, Nakobe Dean, and Nolan Smith, and Jalen Carter were all on that team.
Yep.
And they've already had Jordan Davis, Quay Walker, first pick last year. Why am I forgetting his name? First pick, edge rusher. Jaguars took him.
Trayvon Walker.
Yep. Like Georgia, that defense was absurd. Go watch what Bryce Young did to them. It was insane. Listen, guys, I was out on CJ Stroud. I didn't think he was the guy. I thought he crumbled in big moments. And so I watched what he did on New Year's Eve versus Georgia. Like, whoop, I was wrong about him. He's got it.
That definitely helped him for sure, yeah. And
you think
with the Richardson thing, people are comparing him to Cam Newton. Do we not remember Cam Newton's career? Cam Newton had accuracy issues throughout his career. Yeah, he could run until that Super Bowl when Denver beat him up, and then that kind of went away from him. So if you want to jump up to 1, I mean, Newton was taking 1, but I mean, I guess for that draft, that was just the right guy. If you're looking at this group, Richardson should never be number 1 on anybody's draft board. So if a team does it, good luck to them. You know, everybody says he has to sit for like 2 years to learn anyway.
And you can't. Do that. You gotta. If he's sitting for 2 years, it's a third or at earliest or 4th or 5th round pick like that. Like that. If you're sitting for 2 years, you can't pick someone in the first 2 rounds that's not going to play. Fairly soon. You can't do that.
All right, guys. Got to get in the quarterback contracts. Got to get into some of the things that happen in NFL free agency. I do want to talk about my Philadelphia Eagles a little bit. We'll talk about them a little bit more 2 weeks from now in Birds Deep. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson basically wished goodbye, and it looks like the Browns are honing in on signing him. Really hope something turns around and the Eagles get him back. That's one of the guys I really wanted back. I don't want to take too much time there. Derek Carr signed a pretty big deal, pretty lucrative deal with the New Orleans Saints. What are your thoughts on that deal with the New Orleans Saints?
The salary cap doesn't matter. That's all I got to say. I mean, yeah, it's like it's the Wizard of Oz. I don't know. I like it because I think they got a good base there for him. The defense isn't bad. Chris Olave, I think, with it elevates his game playing with Derek Carr, and
Slant Boy should be back. Hopefully,
Slant Boy, yeah, hopefully. Who knows? He's in his own universe. I think him and Kyrie hang out a lot. They walk to the ends of the earth and just fall right off. But whatever. I mean, I think it's a good move by him. It's a move you had to make because without a quarterback or someone that you could at least build a team around, you have nothing. And it's an upgrade from Dalton and or Jameis Winston, and I just don't see him not doing well there. I think that's going to be a good situation for him. It's a dome, so he's not going to have to worry about, playing in the cold weather because that was a concern about some teams he may go to. I like the Derek Carr contract. I don't think it could burn you. What does burn the Saints, though, is why the fuck are you still paying Taysom Hill that much money? That's what I want to know. Who does he have naked pictures of?
Yeah. He should be the first one to get restructured. But I liked it as well. In that division, I feel like if he went to the Saints or Carolina, I wouldn't have had an issue. Because if you look at it, the defense is going to go up against the Falcons. Don't scare you. The Panthers have a good defense. I'll give them that. But the Bucks are losing guys every day, so we don't know what that team's going to look like. Saints could very easily win that division next year by a couple of games. So I'm not mad at it. I thought it was the right move for them. I like that for the Saints for sure.
Does anybody find it interesting that Derek Carr got paid less money than Daniel Jones? 4 years, 150 versus 4 years, 160.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Derek Carr took a little bit of a discount. I think
that's what they're saying, that Carr tried to help out the Saints by taking a little less.
I mean, yeah, it is kind of wild. And I kind of resent Daniel Jones for raising the quarterback market even more for teams that want to send their guy. Like, I mean, he's getting $94 million guaranteed.
The funny part is, like, now that you cannot, like, even if you were Jalen Hurts, right, and you were like, I want to take a team friendly deal with the Eagles, you can't take less than $40 million because you're just like, this is just, I can't do this.
Yeah,
like, I can't make less than Daniel Jones.
I think that was a defensive move by the Giants. They're gonna we're gonna raise everybody else's salary and we're gonna sign him to a little bit too much money.
Oh, it's crazy. It's absolutely absurd. Daniel Jones stinks. The last 3 years he hasn't thrown more touchdown passes than he's played games.
Yeah,
Brett's trolling Freddie, but he hasn't. You just paid a guy $40 million to lose 38-3 to the Eagles. And by paying him $40 million, and now they're trying to get Leonard, they're trying to sign Leonard Williams, they're trying to sign Saquon Barkley off the franchise tag. What wide receivers you got around them?
Yeah,
what are you going to do? You paid Daniel Jones $40 million.
They better double dip in the draft and make sure that they draft the right guy. That's clearly they're going to be out in the wide receiver market. They can't do anything there.
They drafted Kadarius Toney. He looked decent for Kansas City this year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They can't make mistakes like that because he didn't work there. And clearly they're paying him, assuming Dayball is going to continue to progress with him. And in a couple of years, we'll look at it and be like, Dayball turned him to a pretty good quarterback. Now the contract doesn't look as bad. But if he, regresses in any way, that New York fan base isn't going to let him get away with that. So hopefully they made the right decision, and they're going to have to get some wide receivers there because at the end of last season, I couldn't name anybody he was throwing to other than Saquon.
Well, you're gonna have to give them at least, based off the contract, their potential out really is 2026. So, they're pretty much stuck with them because the dead cap hit is only 9, and but it's 18 the year before. So really, if you have to get out of it, you get out of it in 2025. But 2 years before that, it's 82 and 63. So you definitely have them for the next 2 years guaranteed if it goes awry. But I mean, it just shows people are I don't know, man. To me, that's crazy. Now, my thing is, it's a bad decision. They should have picked up the 5th-year option, but they didn't want to because they didn't. You didn't have enough faith in them to pick up the 5th-year option. But then since you didn't pick up the 5th-year option, and they would have been in the driver's seat this year still, now you just paid a lot more money. I love it as an Eagles fan. I absolutely love it. But
I'm looking at the salary cap for the New York Giants this year, and looks like they'll have the 14th overall NFL cap rate, $224 million. I can't. What are we doing? They have $18 million in cap space to restructure Saquon, sign Leonard Williams, and try to get him a wide receiver. What are you going to do?
We keep seeing these teams that are desperate for whatever a quarterback they'll throw money and hope it's the right guy. I mean, you can see what Denver did for Russell Wilson. Obviously say they probably overpaid for him. And Deshaun Watson, we hadn't seen him in a couple of years. Cleveland was like, "Yeah, go ahead. We'll
I wanna-
throw money at you."
I'm going to
So
remember those people who said that, though. Like when the Russell Wilson trade happened, people were like, "That was a good move." Most people were now they're like, "Oh, that's a horrible contract." If he turns it around next year, then it looks like a good move again.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I mean, listen, I know Russ has his problems, but people are like, oh, I'd rather have Russell Wilson than Daniel Jones. That's for fucking sure."
Yeah.
Like what the? I don't get. People are getting like, get out of here. There's a reason why they got Sean Payton there. That was the exact answer the Broncos needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big Russell Wilson fan, so I really hope Payton turns him around because, like you said, a lot of people are writing him off. I think the Broncos have a really good year next year. Well, depending on their wide receiver situation. Looks like they're shopping Sutton. They might be shopping Judy. Like, who knows?
Do you think that Sean Payton went in there and said, "Hey, Russ, let's ride"? Do you think he said that to him? Because if he did, that would be great. I mean,
immediately that he kicked Russ's guys out the building immediately.
Yeah,
like, he set some precedent,
and they need someone like that. They need someone, and that Russ needs to hear that. Like, oh, you won one Super Bowl, cool. So did I. Take a seat.
Yeah. Another former player came out to. Did you guys hear this report? Another former Kyler Murray teammate said he needs to grow up.
Yeah.
See that?
That's the consensus from anybody who's.
I was trying to. That's what we all assume. I was talking to him on the Call of Duty chat last night. I was trying to draft him for my dynasty league as a minor league pick, and I was trying to see if he had any thoughts about playing baseball. I was like, "Yo, man."
Former Arizona Cardinals offensive lineman Kelvin Beachum offered a pointed assessment of Kyler Murray during a recent radio interview, saying the star quarterback needs to grow up a little bit in order to lead a franchise. Beachum, a free agent after spending the past 3 seasons protecting Murray as one of Arizona's starting offensive linemen, was asked about the 2019 number 1 overall pick leadership abilities during an interview with Arizona Sports 98.7. "Grow up," Beachum responded when asked if Murray needs to be a man and grow up. He demonstrates our beliefs in his ability to lead the team, but according to Beachum, Murray still has work to do as a leader. It's not a completed process. I didn't say he lacks leadership skills. I just think he needs to grow up a bit. I think if he has the ability and willingness to grow up, he'll be fine. That's damning. It's like the 4th teammate that's came out and said he needs to grow up.
Yeah, I love how people act like this isn't possible, right? The best way I could describe it is everybody was in denial about that in Michael Vick early on in his career. And then Michael Vick said it himself in an interview with Jim Mora Jr.
Yeah.
Right? And that is the best way to really describe it. Like, you can hide, you can run, you can throw temper tantrums, complain about the homework clause, whatever you want to. It's going to show on the field. This isn't college. You won't out-athlete the other players. Yeah. They're just as good as an athlete as you are. The offensive lineman is just as good as an athlete as you are. And that's the fact. And these guys that were getting their asses kissed from Pop Warner to high school to college think it's going to carry over to the pros, and they get a wake-up call. And the question is, are they man enough to say, I got to make a change, or do they double down and throw a temper tantrum? And that's how you decide who's your franchise quarterback.
Kyle?
Yeah. No, I was about to say, with all this coming out, Kyler Murray could go one of 2 ways. Comes out next year, becomes like a model teammate. You guys can then say, yeah, Kyle's made the biggest change that I've seen. He's a really good leader. Or he continues down this road and we just keep hearing teammates and stuff say he just doesn't get it. So it's all on him at this point, what he wants people to say about him.
Godfrey said it perfect. I've been saying that for a year, that his whole life he's been able to out-athlete anyone and not have to worry about it, and just been better, more skilled, so it didn't matter how much he knew about defenses. He could just make things happen. In the NFL, that catches up to you.
Yep.
Kyler's got all the talent in the world, man, but coming off an ACL tear, he's not going to be able to use his legs as much as he'd like to. He's going to have to learn how to read coverage. He's in bad shape.
How bad does that contract look now?
Oh, my God. So let me ask you a question just for fun. What contracts look worse? I'm going to give you 4 of them. I want you to rank them 1 through 4. Thanks for bringing that up, by the way, because I thought about this and I forgot to talk about it. 4 quarterbacks got paid a lot of money and have not done everything that they're asked to do. So I want you to rank these 4 contracts and which one you'd rather have. Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Dakota Rain Prescott.
Dakota Rain, man. I can't believe that's his name. That's great. Anyway, so the first 1 through 4, first would be our one that we would want the most.
Yeah, like so 1 would be the one that is the worst. 4 would be the one that we would tolerate.
Okay.
I think. Listen,
which one would you want the least? Let's start there. Which one we'll go over number 4. Which contract would you be like, if you could rescind it right now, it would be the best out of the 4?
So I know my top 2 are. I would probably rescind the Murray contract because I felt this way about him before the ACL tear because I haven't seen the intangibles from him translate at all. Like I haven't seen any promising signs. DeAndre Hopkins is frustrated with him. DeAndre Hopkins, if you look at his career, has played with some trash quarterbacks, some horrible quarterbacks. He's like, I don't want any parts of this. So, I mean, I'm out. That Murray's the worst one. I question because of his dedication to the game so far in the pros, will he have the dedication to his rehab? And how will that affect his physical ability when he does get back on the field?
Okay, so Murray's your 4. How about you, Kyle?
I mean, Murray's pretty good. I might say Prescott. I mean, I just didn't like what I saw from him last year. He was a guy who's supposed to be all about ball control, and it seems like he's turned into turnover prone overnight. And I don't know if I necessarily like that. At least Murray's still young. Now, this next season is going to be important for him, but I'd probably say Prescott is 4.
My 4 is Kyler.
Okay.
And it's nothing. You want to talk about a guy that's going to have to revamp his entire game. He just tore his ACL. So you sign the contract. His teammates hate him. He tore his ACL. He can't run out of the pocket as much as he used to. He's going to have and it didn't happen like the week 1. It happened like week 12. So he might not even ready. He's not ready for like week 5 or 6. It's another year you're burning into that contract this year. I think Kyler's the answer here. Who's 3?
Oh, for me, it's Dakota Rain. I think Prescott's a better leader than Murray right now, so he's a better locker room guy, so that's why I have him above him. But the injury to his ankle, he's still not the same after that, and who could blame him? That was a horrific injury. And, I think he's a serviceable quarterback, but he's definitely one that if you need in crunch time, he's not going to come through. He's shown it over and over again. And the standard that the Cowboys have, because, everybody wants to make them contender, them and the Yankees every year. They pretty much, they're not going to get there with him. He had plenty of weapons around him. I don't see, put other quarterbacks in that quarterback room and see how they do. What if, Justin Herbert had weapons, but, put Justin Herbert on that team or put, it just give him CeeDee Lamb, right? That's pretty good. And that offensive line was pretty good. They had a pretty decent offense. So, he in big moments, it seems every year in the playoffs, last year against the Niners, it's Dak doing something that doesn't get him over the hump.
My number 3 is Dak also. So who would be your number 3, Kyle?
My 3 was Kyler Murray for the reasons that you
said. We all have them 3, 4. Okay, yeah. So Kyle, give me your number 2.
All right, so that's between was
Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson. Whose contract would you rather have? Actually, let's just go 1 because we'll figure 2 out immediately. Yeah. Whose contract would you most like to have out of those 2?
I guess I'm a big Russell Wilson guy, so I'd probably say Wilson. Although I know what I saw from Watson with the Texans, but it's been too many years removed. But I'd say Wilson 1.
Who would you rather have 1? Russell or with Sean Payton now, or Deshaun Watson with a full offseason?
That's a tough one for me. I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson with a full offseason. Still a believer in his talent, even though, he's not a good human being. I'm leaving that aside. But talent, youth, it's guaranteed, but those numbers aren't going to look awful when, the way this quarterback market's going. As the years go on. So I'm going him and then Russ second. It's close for me though. I think Russ has some redeemable qualities. I think he needs to be humbled a little bit. And that year, I think last year was humbling for Russ. That's for sure. Especially when he got that concussion, it looked like he was KO'd like a Mike Tyson punch out. Not funny, but it was interesting. In the face, I was like, oh my God. Remember that meme? I'm like, Jesus.
I still believe that Deshaun Watson can make it happen in Cleveland. I believe that with a full offseason, I believe with the running game and offensive line and offensive head coach, Amari Cooper is number one receiver. I think he's in the best overall situation. I think Deshaun Watson will be fine this year. I believe that. So I'll take Deshaun Watson's contract 1, Russ 2, Dakota Rain 3, and Kyler 4 out of the 4 of them. So we talk about a lot of bad contracts before we get into the last topic of the night, and that's Lamar Jackson.
Woo!
So Lamar Jackson is now on the non-exclusive franchise tag, which, by the way, I've been an advocate, and I agree 100% with the Ravens for putting him on the non-exclusive franchise tag. So a team has to give you 2 first-rounders for the right to overpay Lamar Jackson, which is going to make them think twice about signing him to the longer-term deal, the bigger deal. He'll give less money because they're going to lose 2 first-rounders. They're letting Lamar test the market and see what he's worth. And when he realizes that a team's not going to give him $48 million a year guaranteed, the Ravens can get a little bit more of a quarterback-friendly deal is what they're thinking. I have 2 questions. Number 1, do you agree with the Ravens or Lamar? Or number 2, do you think Lamar Jackson should have hired an agent and not his mother?
Oh, it's his mom, not him?
Well, it's him and his mom.
Yes, the both of them.
So I have to pick one because I might feel like both. I mean,
no, you agree with both of them?
I think that he should have a real agent, and I agree with the Ravens. I mean, I think the Giants should have did what the Ravens did. Like, oh, Daniel Jones, go see if you get $45 million a year. What he's asking for, we'll put a first round tender on you. Let's see what happens. And to me, Lamar, I think, has a bunch of the ability, but this is what I think about Lamar. Over his last 12, since the end of 2021, he's missed 40% of games. Okay. The end of 2021, the end of 2022, 5 games each, and the playoff game. They gave the Bengals a run for their money without him, and they were better with him. But at the end of the day, I'll use Jalen Hurts as a good example. Let's say Jalen Hurts, like, no one's talking about this last year. As Eagles fans, myself, I'm skeptical after last year the way it ended. Like, not this year, but the year before, right? The first round exit in the playoffs. Now Jalen Hurts, you're like, yeah, he should get the money, right? He should get the money because he's done something that Lamar's never done. He's never even been to an AFC championship game. Okay. And I'm not saying you have to get that money, but when you put in the missing the game, 1-3 in the playoffs, and the durability part, the back end of the season, which is arguably the most important part of the season, I'm not giving you $48 million guaranteed. To me, it's just I can't. You're coming off your worst performances and you want the max value.
Yep.
How? That doesn't work in life in general, and especially Lamar has to show the ability to adjust his game because the league will adjust to him. And what I mean is, if you're going to run up the middle, you're going to take that contact, you're going to get injuries. You got to run away from contact. You got to evolve more as a passer to be able to move the offense in a different way. And I feel like he'll do that in a game, and then when it gets tight, he'll regress to what he knows and then get completely away from things that he may have learned. You see his season kind of trajects that way every year. Like, you're like, oh man, Lamar's looking good this year. He's throwing the ball nice 3-4 games in, and then all of a sudden, week 10 hits, and you're like, whoa, that's rough. The best game that could really describe Lamar's lack of in-game adjustment, and this is on the coaching staff too, but was the Brian Flores game. I believe, were they 3-7, the Dolphins?
You're talking about the Thursday night game where Brian Flores was basically running nickel double A and sending cover 0 every play.
If you picked the Dolphins that night, you're saying, now I want proof. You're a liar. I want proof that you picked the Dolphins that night. I want documented proof you said the Dolphins were going to win that game. Prove it. Because if you're saying it with no proof, I don't believe you. Everybody had the Ravens winning that game. And I was just shocked. I was like, it's like the same thing was happening over and over again. It was Groundhog Day within the game. So to me, like Lamar needs a reality check. And I forget the gentleman's name on HBO Max, Bahami Jones or
Bomani Jones.
Yeah, he was saying like, you need an agent to tell them that they're assholes because the first couple offers.
You also need an agent to block out what the Ravens have to say when they're trying to negotiate down the contract. It's not just to tell them they're assholes.
Yeah.
You need to be able to. So Lamar Jackson goes in there and he's like, why am I not worth $50 million? And the Ravens have to explain to him why.
Yep.
And then you're going to offend him.
It's like arbitration in baseball. If everybody read what happened with Corbin Burns on the Milwaukee Brewers, they're like, well, you kind of shit the bed at the end of the year. That's not what they said, but that's what they said during arbitration. It's an ugly process, and he's pissed at him. So, that's what's happening, because Lamar is his own agent and his mom. That's what's happening. And,
He quit on the team last year. He quit on the team. Guys.
Absolutely.
You can't tell me differently. He quit on the team last year. Not only did he quit on the team last year, he didn't play the end of the season 2 years ago. He was hurt then. The contract that they offered him in September, I thought was more than fair. I get it. It was only 131 guaranteed, but it was still $48 million a year, a $250 million contract. It would have been bigger than Deshaun's. It would have been bigger than Russ's if he played it out. I think that just because other teams make these mistakes with their quarterbacks does not mean the Baltimore Ravens have to make the same mistake. We're talking about what contract's worse.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they have to make the same mistake that these other teams made? Kyle, help me out. Help me understand.
I mean, I agree with that. That's why we heard a lot of the owners were upset with Cleveland for what they did with Watson, because they understood at a certain point there's going to come to some quarterback that's going to be out there and they have to make a statement with it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, maybe Lamar is just that guy. Free agency is all about timing. His timing was just the wrong offseason. And I figured the Ravens were going to do this. I said it a while ago, like I said on Jordan's show, that I told him, since he's a big Ravens fan, expect the Ravens to franchise tag Lamar. Now, if they did the exclusive tag, I'd be like, maybe Lamar came down with his demands closer to the team. They work it out. The fact they put non-exclusive lets you know Lamar probably still wants fully guaranteed. The Ravens are like, we can't go there. I believe the Ravens are over the cap as well. So if they were to go fully guaranteed with Lamar, that means they probably lose pieces on that team. And that's 100%. A team that's not necessarily Super Bowl, worthy right now, because you're not going to take them over the Bengals. You're not taking them over the Chiefs. The Chargers, if Staley ever figures it out, they're talented. There's other teams in the AFC that are ahead of them. So if you're going to pay Lamar, and Ravens fans will tell everybody, oh, he doesn't have weapons, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. How do you fix that with him tying up so much of the cap? So the Ravens have a responsibility here. They don't have to follow the trend. They need to do what's right for Baltimore.
They're a good organization, right? If you look at Cleveland, they're a two-bit organization. They had to overpay for Deshaun Watson to get there. They literally did. The Ravens aren't that type of organization, and the reason is because of how they do things. Now, for me, they were a Sam Hubbard turnover not happening from having the Bengals on the brink of elimination with a backup quarterback, okay? They could just say, you know what? We're going to get Hendon Hooker. Wait for him to heal. We see some potential in this kid. Let's draft him in the second round. Probably fall, he's wherever he may fall, and let's build around that kid. Because the other factor is, if you're going to hamstring your team, they're not going to be able to build around them. So you have to ask yourself, is that QB the guy that could carry your team? Mahomes is. He's a rarity, right? Brady had the will to win. He took pay cuts all the time because he knew he needed to have a team around him, and I'm not saying that anybody should get paid less, but I mean, it's as simple as, just because the Browns messed up doesn't mean you have to do that. And that's why the Browns don't have any Super Bowl titles, to be honest, because they make bad decisions. And I'm not saying that the Watson will work out for him, but historically the Ravens draft well. Mm-hmm. They make good signings, good trades, and they usually are very competitive. They have a good coach. They have a good culture. And I just think Lamar's out of his mind to expect that. Like I think he is grossly overvaluing himself. Like, listen, people say, well, he has an MVP. None of these guys have MVPs. Ask Dan Marino how many MVPs he would give back if he was able to get a Super Bowl trophy in his right.
Not everyone's Tom Brady, man.
Yeah.
And I'll defend Lamar a little bit here. So I don't think Lamar should be asking for less money. I think that he should be fully entrenched. I need more than Derek Carr. I need more than Daniel Jones.
That's fair.
I need more than Deshaun Watson. I have an MVP. Kyler Murray. But you got to make it where it's bonus money. It's not all guaranteed, and it's team friendly to be able to add additions to your team. See, like Dak Prescott understood exactly what it was, right? Dak signed a massive deal, but so much of it's bonus money. It's not guaranteed money. So he gets a huge chunk of change. The contract looks big. He makes the money while he's on the team, and the team can still reload around him. And that's the only thing I'll give Dak Prescott credit for, because it's not a huge cap hit. The Dallas Cowboys structured that contract very bonus heavy, so they could be able to cut ties, or it's not guaranteed money.
Well, they had to do that, though, to be fair, because they committed the venial sin of giving a running back a lot of money and a quarterback. So that's why you had to say, like, oh, they let Amari Cooper go. I mean, I know he made
$16 million on the books this year.
Yeah, I mean,
then they franchised Tony Pollard at $10 million, and Tony Pollard's probably not going to be able to play the whole year. And they basically franchised him at $10.1 million this year. He's not going to be able to play until November. Because they don't want to lose him, because they know he's their future running back. It's wild, bro. It's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. I want to borrow a line real quick from Colin Cowherd. He has some awful takes. I don't always agree with him, but he said conclusion doesn't mean collusion, right? So if people come to a consensus conclusion about Lamar and what might the outlook be in the future, does not mean they're colluding. That's a totally different story. And people say, well, they don't want to give the Watson guaranteed contract. It's not. I don't really think it's as much as we don't want to do that. That might be part of it, but they don't want to give it to this particular guy because you got to look at recent performance. I mean, you're not paying him off 2018. You can't use that as a barometer.
Agreed, guys. We're gonna talk about this a lot more in 2 weeks from now. We got a lot more to get into with Pregaming Pigskin. I'll be on vacation next week. So if I think that we let free agency play out the way it is. We come back on the 23rd and we discuss everything that happened, and then we start pre-gaming the NFL draft in April. Any final comments you guys want to bring up before we wrap it up for tonight?
No, just I'm excited for free agency to happen and go USA in the World Baseball Classic.
I mean, man, the Eagles are going to get slammed in this free agency.
They are, but see, man, you got to. It's tough, man. You're going to face that question: how much you're going to get the quarterback, how long, and you got to prepare for that. But
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson one hit me, bro. I thought if they were going to re-sign a couple players this year, I thought Chauncey Gardner-Johnson would be one of those players. If you lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, James Bradbury, I understand losing TJ Edwards. You got Nakobe Dean to walk right into that role. I get it. Kazir White, I get it. Javon Hargrave, I understand. You have Jordan Davis to walk into that role.
Do you think it can have anything to do with any locker room issues, perhaps? Because, he has had them in other organizations.
They all love him.
Right. Maybe the organization, because, he was calling people out after the Super Bowl. Do you think that kind of might have been
Possible. It's possible. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's going to go to Cleveland and make a lot of money and do really well there.
Don't blame him for getting paid. I mean,
no. I just don't go to Dallas. That's all I ask. They don't have the money, so I'm good.
No, that pisses
all
me
I ask out of you Eagles free agents, just don't go to Dallas.
Right.
Yeah.
Any final comments, Mr. Kyle Edwards?
No, I'm like Godfrey. I want to see where free agency goes. I think this is going to be. I mean, it's obviously going to be very active. There's a lot of guys that need new homes or re-sign or whatever, but I am interested to see what my Patriots do. Would love for them to probably sign a tackle in free agency, draft one, but everybody's gonna be pressuring them to get wide receivers. Worry about tackles. That's all I want. So,
by the way, I was scared shitless when the name Matt Patricia came up for defensive coordinator for the Eagles. I was like,
God,
You can't have the guy that got the Philly special done on him be your defensive coordinator. That can't happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had the worst answer. He's like, yeah, I saw the play. I was like, oh my God, this guy. Anyway.
Well, I got to head out. I appreciate you guys listening and tuning in this week. Pregaming Pigskin. I made sure I could stay around and do this show, but my vacation officially starts now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. That's Kyle Edwards. That's D. Godfrey. I'm Wire to Wire Gene, and this is Pregaming Pigskin, and we are signing out.
See.